He thought he was ending our marriage with a smug little speech over pasta and wine. But I ended his entire lifestyle with one sentence: "You don't serve divorce papers to a woman whose lawyer father wrote your Prenup. So when he said, "You'll be okay," I smiled and said, "Only because you forgot clause 14B. Before we begin, comment below which city you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 33 years old and I live just outside Seattle, Washington. By day, I co-own a boutique marketing firm that I helped build from scratch. I'm the type of woman who triple checks contracts, keeps color-coded files, and never misses a meeting. Some say I'm too careful, too composed, too quiet, but quiet doesn't mean weak. Because the night my husband asked for a divorce, I didn't cry, I didn't panic, I smiled. Because I had a clause and a planned out. It was supposed to be our anniversary dinner, 7 years married. Il Forno, his favorite Italian spot in downtown Seattle. Dim lighting, candlelight flickering between us. Soft jazz humming in the background. The kind of place that screams romance, but tonight, the air between us was cold. Ryan wore the navy blazer I hadn't seen in months. The one I bought him for a promotion he never thanked me for. His hair was perfect. His posture too straight. He hadn't looked this polished in weeks. I knew then. This dinner wasn't about celebrating us. It was about ending us. Still, I smiled. I wore a red dress, his favorite color once upon a time. I let him order the wine, Barolo 2012 vintage. Expensive. Interesting choice for a man about to walk out of a marriage. We made small talk. He commented on the bread. I nodded, murmured something about work. All the while I watched his hands. They fidgeted. His ring twisted. Then, finally, he folded his napkin with precision, like he was closing a contract, and cleared his throat. "Emily," he said, voice low, almost rehearsed. "I want a divorce." Just like that. No build-up. No apology. Just those 6 words dropped like a bomb on bone china. I blinked, slowly, set my fork down. Took a sip of wine. "This has nothing to do with you," he continued quickly. "I've just changed. I'm not the man I was when we got married." He didn't say her name. Didn't mention his assistant. Didn't reference the late nights, the mystery cologne, or the text I wasn't supposed to see that read. "She suspects something. Be careful." Instead, he reached across the table, fake concern in his eyes. "I still care about you. I'll make sure you're taken care of." Taken care of? Like I was a stray dog he felt guilty leaving behind. I stared at him for a moment, and that's when I realized he truly believed I'd fall apart. He thought I was naive, soft, disposable. What he didn't know was that I'd already seen the signs. And more importantly, I'd seen the contract. The prenup, the one my father, a retired attorney, insisted we both sign. The one Ryan barely skimmed before scribbling his signature with a smirk. The one that had a clause. He had completely forgotten that. I reached for my clutch, feeling the weight of the envelope inside, but not yet. No. Let him enjoy the wine. Let him serve betrayal on a silver plate, because in a few minutes, I'd be serving justice. He swirled the wine in his glass, staring into it like it held the courage he clearly lacked. "I didn't come to this lightly," Ryan said, voice calm, practiced. "This isn't just some midlife crisis or dramatic impulse." He was trying to manage me, soft voice, steady hands, pretending this was a mature conversation. "I've been thinking about this for a while now. I just didn't know how to say it." Funny, I could think of at least 10 other ways he could have said it. That didn't involve booking a table at my favorite restaurant and ruining risotto for the rest of my life. I kept my expression neutral. Like I hadn't already figured this out months ago. Like I hadn't checked his phone the day he left it unlocked on the kitchen counter. Like I hadn't seen the text from C that read, "Last night was perfect. I hate hiding. When can you tell her?" So I just nodded slowly. "Go on." That was all he needed. He leaned in, relieved. Like I had given him permission to betray me again, but politely this time. "There's someone else," he said finally. There it was. The line, the cliche, the knife. He didn't even flinch when he said it. "It's Claire." And there she was, Claire, 24, still calls her dad daddy. Takes bathroom selfies at our desk and captions them #hustle. The same Claire who once called me Mrs. Carter and asked what my skincare routine was. I didn't react. Just reached for my water, took a long sip. I see. He hesitated. I think he expected me to cry, or slap him, or storm out, but I didn't. And that unsettled him. Emily, I never meant for it to happen. Claire and I, we connected. At first it was harmless, talking late at the office, venting. But then things changed. Of course they did. She listens. She understands me. She doesn't make me feel like I'm failing all the time. That line hit the table like a dropped fork dot, so that's what this was. Not just cheating, blaming me for it. I tilted my head and asked, how long has it been? He blinked. That shook him. 6 months, he said quickly, then added, maybe a little longer. So almost a year of lies. A year of missed dinners, cold shoulders, and I'm just tired excuses. A year of me holding the house, the business, the everything together. And now? I asked. He cleared his throat, sat up straighter. Now I want to move forward. I want this to be clean, dignified. I don't want a war, Emily. You'll be taken care of. Taking care of Dot as if I was a pet. A dependent. Someone he could give a settlement check to and send away. Quietly while he rewrote the narrative with Claire, he truly didn't remember. Or maybe he never actually read the prenup. I smiled just slightly and reached into my purse. The envelope was thick, heavy, cream-colored. Not because it had to be, but because I wanted it to feel like power when I set it on the table. What's this? He asked. A little something I brought, I replied, sliding it across the linen tablecloth. Since we're being honest tonight. He looked down at it but didn't touch it. Emily, this isn't necessary. I think it is, I said, gently interrupting. You brought divorce to dinner. I brought documentation. He finally picked it up, peeled back the flap, slid out the crisp legal papers. He skimmed the first page. His face changed. Color drained from his cheeks. His mouth moved, but no words came out. What is this? Page 5, I said. Clause 1(4)(b). He flipped .read, .stop, .read again, and then looked up at me like he had seen a ghost. This says if either party is found guilty of infidelity, the other receives full ownership of all shared assets. I finished for him coolly. House, vehicles, business equity, liquid accounts. His hand trembled slightly. He blinked, searching my face for any sign of weakness. He found none. This won't hold. No court will let this stand. It already stood, I said, finishing my wine. You signed it. Of your own free will. My father even advised you to get separate counsel, remember? He didn't remember. Because he never took it seriously. He thought he was marrying a woman who'd never fight back. He didn't know he was marrying a lawyer's daughter with a steel spine and a safety net disguised as a legal clause. You're bluffing, he said, trying to laugh. It came out hollow. No, Ryan, I said, standing up slowly. I'm settling. His lips parted. He looked smaller in his chair than I'd ever seen him, and as I turned to leave, I said the one line that had been burning in my chest since. He opened his mouth. You should have read the fine print right after the wedding vows. 3 months before that dinner, I stopped believing in coincidences. It was a Thursday night. Ryan came home late, again. Said he had a last-minute client dinner. No kiss, no eye contact. Just a quick shower and then straight to bed. He forgot his blazer on the back of the dining chair. And in the chest pocket, I found something small. A crumpled, folded receipt. Hotel Clementine, room 423. The date? Last Saturday, the night he told me he was at a networking event in Tacoma. I held that receipt like it was radioactive. Stared at it for 10 minutes in total silence. I could have stormed into the bedroom. I could have flipped the lights on and screamed until the neighbors heard. But I didn't, because I've learned something powerful. Rage is loud. Strategy is quiet. I went to my home office. Sat down at my desk, same one I built the company from. Clicked open a blank folder and titled it Contingency R. It sat there, cold, empty, but not for long. That night I didn't sleep. I started digging Dot, and the deeper I went, the more I found digital clues. His iPad was still synced to our shared cloud. He didn't even realize. Claire's name popped up again and again, buried in calendar invites, casual photos, and Uber receipts. One file made my blood run cold. A screenshot of a dinner reservation with a heart emoji and her initials. For C window seat, she loves sunsets. We used to do sunset dinners. Not anymore. The messages, 3 weeks of messages, appeared in iMessage backups he thought were private. Some were explicit, some were worse, the emotional ones. The ones that said, "I've never felt this scene before." The ones where he called her my peace, I was the war apparently. The woman who cleaned his messes, paid his business taxes, and still made time to ask about his mother's arthritis. Didn't cry. Not even once. Instead, I opened a prenup. The forgotten weapon. I hadn't looked at the prenup in years. We'd signed it 7 years ago on my parents' back porch, with lemonade and trust and rings that still sparkled. I remembered my father's face that day, calm, sharp, unreadable, just in case, he'd said to me. You never plan for rain when the sun is out, but carry the umbrella anyway. Ryan hadn't read it. He skimmed, laughed. I'm not planning to screw you over, he joked. Why would I ever cheat on you? Then he signed, on page 5, halfway down. It sat like a loaded gun. Clause 14b. In the event of confirmed extramarital infidelity by either spouse, the non-offending party shall be entitled to full ownership of all jointly held marital assets, including but not limited to real estate, vehicles, business equity, and joint financial accounts, contingent on documented evidence or voluntary admission. Not just infidelity. Confirmed infidelity, which thanks to Ryan's digital laziness and Claire's Instagram oversharing, I had in abundance. The preparation phase from that night on, everything I did had a purpose. I contacted a discreet attorney, not our usual firm, collected every document, bank statements, travel logs, shared expenses. I even printed screenshots and got them notarized, just in case. Meanwhile, I smiled at dinner, asked about his meetings, packed his dry cleaning, pretended not to notice when he left his wedding ring in the bathroom 3 days in a row. He thought I was distracted. He thought he was getting away with it, but I wasn't distracted. I was documenting a demolition. Why I waited, people ask. Why didn't you confront him right then and there? Because I didn't want drama. I wanted leverage. I wanted timing. I wanted to sit across from him in a fancy restaurant, the one he picked, and let him say the words. Let him believe he had the upper hand. Let him deliver the final blow, only for me to slide an envelope across the table and detonate his reality. I wasn't the kind of woman who begs. I was the kind who builds a case and picks the battlefield. He just didn't know he'd walked into one, and that receipt? I still keep it in a drawer. Not because I need it anymore, but because it reminds me. The moment you start hiding things is the moment I stop being your wife and start being your reckoning. Ryan stared at the envelope like it was ticking. Like if he waited long enough, maybe it would disappear. I didn't rush him. I wanted him to open it on his own. I wanted him to look me in the eye after he realized what it contained. Emily, he said finally, his voice lower now, almost cautious. What is this supposed to be? I folded my hands neatly in my lap, as calm as I'd ever been. Protection, I answered. The kind you said I didn't need. He blinked, confused, then irritated. I meant financially. He said, you know that. I tilted my head slightly, watching the mask crack. Oh, I know exactly what you meant. A nice little severance package for the woman you cheated on, with the woman who still thinks the stock market is a reality show. His jaw tightened. His fingers brushed the edge of the envelope, but didn't open it yet. You're not serious, he said flatly. Try me. He opened it. I watched his face change in slow motion, from annoyed to puzzled to something that looked like nausea. He started skimming, flipping through the pages too fast to process anything. But then he stopped, midway through the stack. Right at the line I had highlighted in yellow, he read it again. And then again. You're kidding, he said, voice barely above a whisper. This I send single quotes T. This isn't real. It's very real, I replied, page 5. Clause 14b, it's been real for 7 years. You just didn't think it mattered. His shoulders sank a little. He looked back down, reading the words out loud now as if saying them would change their meaning. In the event of confirmed extramarital infidelity, the non-offending party shall be entitled to full ownership. Joint assets, real estate, business equity, vehicles, liquid accounts, double quotes. He trailed off. He didn't even finish the sentence. He didn't have to. This isn't enforceable. He snapped suddenly. There's no way this could hold up in court. It's ridiculous. Actually, it's airtight, I said. Reviewed by 2 separate legal firms, signed in good faith. And best of all, you were advised to get your own lawyer and didn't, remember? He stared at me as if trying to will me into backing down. I didn't think I'd need one. He said, slower now, we were happy back then. No, I replied calmly, I was happy. You were comfortable. He looked away. I don't believe this, he muttered. You planned this. I protected myself, I corrected. There's a difference. He set the papers down and leaned forward as if trying to regain some control over the conversation. This is insane. Emily, you can't just take everything. I leaned into, mirroring his body language. My voice as quiet as his but far steadier. I'm not taking anything, Ryan. I'm claiming what was already mine. You're the one who signed the paper. You're the one who broke the agreement. You're the one who handed me the keys. His hands were clenched now, gripping the table like it was the only thing keeping him upright. There was a small vein pulsing in his temple, a detail I might have found endearing. Once before, he looked up again, his expression changing. Desperate now. Look, he said, lowering his voice like we were conspiring. We don't have to make this ugly. We can work something out. I'll give you the car. The lake house. I'll even sign over my shares of the business. Just don't make this public. That was when I knew he was scared. Scared not of me, but of what everyone else would think. His colleagues, his clients, his parents who still believed I was too independent for a good marriage. His reputation, which had always mattered more to him than truth. He had no idea that I had already filed the paperwork, quietly, discreetly, legally. I let him speak, let him offer piece after piece of a life he no longer controlled, and then I smiled. Not cruelly, not smugly, just peacefully. I don't want your car, I said softly, or your lake house. I want what I was promised, what you signed, what you laughed off as just in case. He leaned back in his chair, silent. The Eid de Chance, that kind of silence that happens right before someone realizes they've stepped off a cliff they didn't know was there. I can't believe you're doing this, he whispered, and I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. He looked at me again, but this time there was something different in his eyes, fear. The dawning realization that he had been outplayed, not in a loud, messy way, but in a way so precise, so surgical, he didn't even feel the cut until the blood was already on the table. Claire doesn't know about any of this, he mumbled. Of course she doesn't, I replied. Claire's still living in the fantasy you sold her. The one where you're powerful and noble and rich. She's about to find out that fairy tales don't come with lawyers. He swallowed hard. This will ruin me. No, I said, reaching for my coat. You ruined yourself. I'm just holding the receipt. I stood, looping my purse over my shoulder and let the weight of everything settle on him. Not a scream, but as a silence he couldn't escape. As I turned to leave, I paused. Double quotes, oh, and Ryan? He looked up slowly. Next time you plan to cheat on your wife, I said, calmly adjusting my sleeve. Make sure she doesn't have a legal clause with your signature on it. And then I walked out. Left him with the check, left him with the prenup, left him with exactly what he gave. Me. Nothing. 2 days after the dinner, Ryan tried calling me 6 times in a row. He didn't leave a voicemail. He never did. Too proud for that. Instead, he followed up with a text that simply said, "Can we talk? This is spiraling." Spiraling, that was his word for losing control. But what he didn't understand, what he never understood, was that I had already let go of the house, of the image. Of him, this wasn't spiraling. This was the crash he never thought would happen. And I wasn't trying to stop it. I let his messages go unanswered. I forwarded everything to my attorney, the one who'd already filed the enforcement motion under the Prenup clause, the one Ryan called dramatic back when I first asked him to sign it. That week, it began. First, the business. Our accountant froze the shared account, pending asset redistribution. Our largest client, who had met Claire at a holiday party and didn't like her energy, called to say they'd be suspending the contract until things settle internally. Then came the house. My name was on the deed. Ryan's wasn't, a quiet legal maneuver my father had advised. When we used my inheritance for the down payment, He received notice of occupancy transfer on a Tuesday morning. By Friday, a moving truck was scheduled. Not for me, for him. The car was next. The Tesla Model S. Leased under the company name, I canceled the lease. Ryan would have to return it and maybe Uber his way to his next affair. Everything he thought was his was never really his, and the best part? He had signed. Off on all of it, every sure babe. Every whatever your dad wants. Every careless, smug little signature. They were now mine in black ink, legally binding. Ryan didn't know how to fight without control. He was used to winning by charm, deflection, distraction, but now his charm had no audience. His mistress had no protection. And I had no reason. To care. Claire, sweet young Claire, sent me a message. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I wasn't going to waste my breath on a woman who saw a married man and didn't bother asking questions. She wasn't a victim. She was a mirror, a reflection of everything Ryan valued: youth, attention, adoration without accountability. She left him a week later. A friend of a friend told me she moved back to Arizona. She didn't even pack all her things. Ryan was alone, and that, more than the financial losses, was what broke him. The silence. The empty condo he barely qualified for. The dwindling calls. From investors who used to laugh at his jokes. The new assistant who called him Mr. Carter but never looked him in the eye. I never celebrated it. Not with champagne. Not with revenge posts. Not with Instagram stories laced in pettiness. Instead, I celebrated by sleeping 8 hours without clenching my jaw. By lighting a candle in the house I now fully owned. By waking up one morning and realizing that the weight I carried wasn't sadness, it was dead weight. And it was gone. One morning, a package arrived at my office. No return address. Inside was a letter. 3 pages, typed, double-spaced like a resignation letter to our marriage. He wrote things like, I didn't know how to love you without feeling smaller than you. Claire wasn't love, she was relief, temporary relief. I didn't think you'd really leave, not you. And the final line, underlined, desperate. I would give anything to undo what I've done. I folded the letter, slipped it into the bottom drawer of my desk, not out of sentiment, but as evidence. Not for court, but for myself, a reminder of what I survived. What I walked through, and what I never have to return to again. I didn't reinvent myself overnight. There was no dramatic haircut, no new city. No quick rebound with a gym trainer or mysterious neighbor. What there was quiet, a kind of silence I hadn't known in years. Not the lonely kind, the clean kind. The kind that wraps around you like fresh air. The kind that comes after you've thrown out everything that was rotting. I spent my first real night alone in the house, walking barefoot across the hardwood floors, running my fingers over the clean countertops, noticing how light spilled across the walls without anyone there to block it. It was my home now, not a shared space, not a battleground. Just mine. In the mornings, I stopped checking my phone first thing. No more waiting for good morning texts that never came. No more wondering if he was lying about late meetings or missing calls. I started cooking again, not for anyone else. Not to impress, not to perform marriage. Just for me. There was something therapeutic about learning what I liked again. Not what we liked. I realized I didn't even enjoy the wine he used to order. I started drinking green tea at night instead. At work, I adjusted the signage on the glass doors of our office. Carter and Carter Marketing became simply Carter Collective. I kept my last name, not because of Ryan, but because of everything I built. Under our old logo? Gone. Claire had picked it. Some cheesy cursive design she claimed felt romantic. I replaced it with a bold serif typeface, clean and classic. Like me. My staff noticed the change in me before I did. They said I smiled more, took deeper breaths in meetings, that I was sharper, somehow more focused. The truth was, I had more energy because I wasn't bleeding it dry trying to be someone else's emotional support system while he built his next mistake. And then, one day I did something I hadn't done in over a decade. I took a weekend off. No emails, no client calls. No spreadsheets. Just me, a rental car, and a bed and breakfast 3 hours away, where no one knew my name or what I'd been through. I packed light. Left my wedding ring in the jewelry box, still unpolished, just the way I found it after he stopped wearing his. I brought a novel. The kind I used to read in college. The kind I stopped reading when being a wife became my full-time personality. On that trip, I met a woman at the breakfast table, 50-something divorcee visiting from San Francisco. She told me about how she rebuilt her career at 45 and married a man who washed her dishes without being asked. We laughed, shared croissants, and when she asked what brought me there, I just said closure. She smiled like she knew exactly what that meant. I came home that Sunday and opened the windows. Let air move through the house like it hadn't in years, and that night, I slept like someone who didn't owe anyone forgiveness, but had forgiven herself, not for trusting Ryan, but for staying long after I knew I shouldn't have, because the truth is, I didn't just lose a marriage. I lost time, years of it, years spent keeping peace, walking on eggshells, convincing myself that love means patience, even when that patience turns into self-betrayal. But now I wasn't waiting for someone to come home. I was already home. In every way that mattered, and it was only the beginning. A year later, I got an invitation I didn't expect. It was for a retirement gala. Professor Galeson, my old business mentor from college. The event was being held at the Metropolitan Hotel downtown, the same venue Ryan and I once talked about booking for our 10th anniversary party. Funny how life redirects you. I almost didn't go. Not because I was nervous, but because I wasn't sure if I needed it anymore. That version of me, the one still trying to impress professors, parents, partners, she was long gone. But I went anyway, not to prove anything. Just to show myself how far I'd come, I wore a slate blue gown. Simple, elegant, no sequins. My hair was pinned back, my heels comfortable. No one to impress. No one to disappoint. And when I walked into the ballroom, something shifted. People noticed me. Not because I was anyone's plus one, not because I had a famous last name, but because I carried myself like someone who had been to hell and returned. With better boundaries. Toward the end of the evening, I saw a familiar silhouette across the room. Gray at the temples. Posture slightly slumped. Rhyme. He was standing near the wine table alone, holding a glass like he was afraid to drop it. Still polished, still well-dressed. But the confidence that once floated around him like cologne, it was gone. When he saw me, he froze. And for a second, we just stared at each other across a room full of people who had no idea they were watching the final scene of an old play. He walked over slowly. "Emily," he said quietly. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I could say the same," I replied, polite but distant. He looked different now. Smaller somehow, not physically but in presence. The shine had dulled. "I heard you opened a second office," he said, almost like a question. I nodded. "And a third's in the works." He gave a slow smile. It didn't quite reach his eyes. "You always were the smart one." It wasn't flattery. It was regret. Plain and naked. There was a pause, the kind where both people want to fill it, but only one has anything left to say. "I'm sorry," he said finally. "Not just for Claire or the wine, but for not seeing you, for thinking you'd never leave, for forgetting you had options." I studied his face. The man I once thought was the center of my world was now just a man, not a villain, not a fantasy, just a person who made his choices and paid for them. "I forgave you," I said softly, "not because you deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry your mistake in my body any longer." He looked down, exhaled. "I hope you're happy," he said. "I am," I said truthfully. But I had to stop trying to be perfect for someone who wanted me to be small. He nodded, stepping back, as if giving me space, as if finally understanding what that space meant. And then he walked away. No dramatic moment, no final insult. Just distance, the kind that grows between people who used to know each other, but don't anymore. Later that night, I stepped outside the ballroom into the cool evening air. The city buzzed around me, taxis, laughter, streetlights blinking like heartbeats. I stood there for a moment, breathing it in. I had survived betrayal, rebuilt a business, relearned how to trust myself, and most importantly, I had come home. To a version of me that didn't beg to be chosen, because now, one choose myself. Every single day. And that, not revenge, not money, not reputation, that is the real happy ending.